Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 642, Ron and Don. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weaver's Department Store and you can pick up the new book by Ruta Lee, Consider Yourself Kissed. We won't say the name of it. But it's a great book. You'll enjoy it. She was that college kid and other characters on the Andy Griffith Show. Go and check it out. It's got some great stories I think you'll enjoy. While you're there, you might want to check out the Loaded Goat. That's right, Loaded Goat t-shirts. They're over at Weaver's as well, both long and short sleeve. Head over and check it out at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by donations from listeners like you, and the executive producer of 642 is Mark Copeland. So thank you, Mark. And thank you for being here with me in Mayberry. This past weekend, we were in Mount Airy, North Carolina for the 9th annual Mayberry meetup. Oh, yay. And it was a great time. Everybody had a lot of fun. We had 100 and some odd people because it rained on Saturday, and that slowed everybody, I think, coming out because that's usually our bigger night. But we had about 100 on Friday and at least near 70 on Saturday before the rain came. So hopefully you didn't get rained out. But we'll talk some more about that in upcoming weeks because folks that weren't there, y'all weren't there, so you won't care. So we'll talk about that later. But tonight we're going to be talking about Ron Howard and Don Knotts. Ron Howard and Don Knotts. So we'll talk about that second because Randy Turner, who is unable to be with us this week, we're going to do a rerun of his, and we're going to play This Week in Mayberry History to kick off tonight's podcast because it is also related to Don Knotts, and it's from 2017 and his This Week in Mayberry History report about Don Knotts himself. So, Randy, take it away.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by special correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
Jesse Donald Knotts was born on July the 21st, 1924 in Morgantown, West Virginia. Don is unquestionably best known for playing Barney Fife, but his career certainly encompassed so much more. Don came from humble beginnings, growing up under a father who suffered from schizophrenia and alcoholism, and who literally sometimes threatened Don with a knife. After high school, Don moved to New York City for what proved to be an unsuccessful attempt to launch a career as a comedian. After a year of college back in West Virginia, Don enlisted. He spent most of his service entertaining troops in the Special Services branch. After serving, he returned to West Virginia, finished his degree, and married. When he then returned to New York to try again, the connections he had made in the Special Services branch served him well. Among his early work was being cast in 1951 as the know-it-all character Wendy Wales in the popular juvenile Western radio serial Bobby Benson and the B-Bar-B Riders. His character provided comedic relief from the show's suspense storylines by telling tall tales around the campfire. Don's first TV casting was in the soap opera Search for Tomorrow, where he appeared from 1953 to 1955, while still playing Wendy and also doing stand-up comedy in clubs in the evenings. After the radio show ended in 1955, Don was cast that same year in the Broadway production of No Time for Sergeants, which of course starred Andy Griffith. While clowning around, Don used the voice he had used to play Wendy Wales on the Bobby Benson radio program. Andy was a fan of the radio show, and the next day asked Don if he was Wendy Wales. Thus began what became a lifelong friendship. Don's big break in television came in 1956 when he joined the repertory company on Steve Allen's variety show, notably playing the extremely nervous Mr. Morrison in the show's most popular sketch, mock man in the street interview segments. But Don's most famous role began in 1960 when he was cast as Deputy Barney Fife in The Andy Griffith Show. Don was a regular during the 5 black and white seasons and made guest appearances during the 3 color years, winning 5 Emmy Awards in the process. Having made the 1964 film The Incredible Mr. Limpet while on hiatus from The Andy Griffith Show, Don signed a deal with Universal and made a number of pictures for them, beginning with the 1966 film The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, based on an expansion of a premise first seen while Don was still in Mayberry in the episode The Haunted House. Andy Griffith even helped punch up the script as an uncredited favor to his friend. After his Universal contract was up, Don later made a series of successful family films for Disney, beginning with 1975's The Apple Dumpling Gang, co-starring Tim Conway. In 1979, Don returned to TV with Three's Company, taking over the position of landlord after the Ropers were given their own spin-off series. And in later years, he also was a frequent guest on his old friend's show, Matlock, and he of course reprised his role as Barney in the TV reunion movie Return to Mayberry. This is the scantest overview of his long career, but his most famous role is the one for which he is also the most beloved. The fumbling, self-important, but true friend, Barney Fife. Don passed away in 2006, but the joy he brought his many fans will never end. That's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening, and remember to take Andy's advice and go out there and act like somebody.
Wow, thank you, Randy. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the fun that Randy finds for us out on the internet, send him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com, turnersgrade@gmail.com, and he'll make sure you don't miss out on anything. So thanks again, Randy. Folks, that was a report from Randy from back in 2017. He's been doing this quite a while, hasn't he? And it is so fitting because his birthday, Don Knott's birthday, is the 21st of July, and that's coming up as we record this episode. So hopefully you'll just remember Don a little bit. We're going to go ahead. Normally I do trivia, or here lately I have been, but we're going to go ahead and go on into the other story that I had for you. And this is a kind of a compilation of some stories that I'd found out on the internet about Ron Howard and Don Knotts. And I thought you might enjoy hearing some of these stories. So I got some background music for us from the VW Boys, thanks to Tim White. And so that helps cover up some of my ums and ahs and what ifs and who knows. Back on October the 3rd, 1960, the Andy Griffith Show premiered on CBS. Starred, of course, Andy Griffith as Andy Taylor, the widowed sheriff of Mayberry, North Carolina. Alongside him was his deputy, Don Knotts, played the character of Barney Fife and provided the comic relief for the show, at least a lot of it. And 6-year-old Ron Howard, who played Andy's son, Opie. During one of the first times that Ron Howard met Don Knotts, he made quite an impression upon the young actor. This is a quote from Ron. All of a sudden, this very quiet man, Don Knotts, he became a complete bundle of nerves. Cameras were rolling. I think he was tapping his pocket and saluting and knocking his hat off. I remember turning to my dad and saying something like, "Is that man crazy?" My dad, Rance, said, No. He's a very funny actor. Well, Ron Howard soon learned just how funny. Growing up on the Andy Griffith Show set, the young boy never saw anyone make the show's star, Andy Griffith, laugh as hard as Don Knotts did. But when Knotts was getting started as an actor, who was surely one of the most finest physical comedians ever to perform on television, Don wasn't brimming with confidence. Instead, he felt pessimistic. He didn't have a lot of confidence in himself. Well, as you might expect, the actor who became famous for playing the twitchy character had a lot of uncertainty about his abilities to make it in Hollywood. So way before Andy and Don got together for this amazing sitcom, The Andy Griffith Show, Andy remembered Don coming to see him in his dressing room back on Broadway when they were in No Time for Sergeants. And Don wanted to perform a skit. Don wasn't sure if anybody else would really like it. It was a sketch Don had written earlier for an audition, but he got shot down for the role following the performance of it. Still, he cautiously decided to revive this little comedy bit that he had written. The skit was, fittingly, about this nervous man who had never given a speech before. He steps up to the podium for the first time, and in his book about the actors and their friendship, Andy remembers Don's demonstrating the skit. It was in the book that was about it. The piece ended, and Don was one uneasy question to put to his honest friend. He had that one question: was it funny? We imagine Don Knotts' eyes bugging out just a little bit when he asked it, don't you? Was it funny? Lord, Don, said Andy. That's brilliant. To prove it, Andy then broke into a fit of laughter that lasted a long time and stretched pretty much through the duo's lifelong friendship. I've seen that skit. It was amazing. That's great if you haven't ever seen it. It's probably on YouTube. After Don Knotts had performed this skit for Andy, Andy encouraged his friend to use it to try out for No Time for Sergeants. And this time the skit was a hit. So, of course, Knotts got cast, and from that point on, he trusted that Andy understood not just his sense of humor, but his value as a performer. For many classic TV fans, the pair's comedic chemistry remains unrivaled. Now, that story that I'm reading from, or I'm telling you about, says that he performed the skit and then got the No Time for Sergeants. I'm not sure of the timing. It doesn't really matter. What we got to remember is that Andy was sitting around with Don Knotts, and Don was trying out these skits on Andy and making Andy laugh. Wouldn't you have loved to have been in that room? Can you imagine? Sitting around, here, can I try out something on you? What an experience that must have been. Well, Ron Howard got one of the earliest glimpses of Don Knotts' genius. But like anyone taking in a strange sight for the first time, he was a little bit baffled by Don Knotts. At just 5 years old, he's only 5. You know, that's when he saw this. He had to adjust to the chaotic energy that Don Knotts brought to the set, both on stage and off. Behind the scenes, Ron says that Don didn't tone anything down. He remembers Andy and Don singing country tunes that Don was always cranked up just a notch. He saw just a little bit more. Here's a quote. He says, he'd get Andy singing and do these kooky harmonies. That's what Ron Howard said. For Don Knotts, the impression he got of this young co-star couldn't have been further away from the way he felt about his own acting. Don said this about Ron. He said, to be as good as he was at the age of 5 was incredible. I couldn't believe it. He talked about that on TV, EmmyTVLegends.org, EmmyTVLegends.org. So you go watch his interview. It was young Ronnie's range that struck Don Knotts as inspiring. Don said, he could do a tearful scene or a funny scene, whatever you gave him. He just instinctively knew how to do it. Amazing. Wow. So those are some of the memories from Ron Howard, talking a little bit about the amazing Don Knotts. Can you imagine just being in that room with Andy and seeing this? And then Ron Howard being a little boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, watching these guys and learning from them. So I know Ron's had a lot of really kind things to say about Andy. So it's kind of neat to hear him talking about Don Knotts as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now we're going to play a little bit of trivia before we get out of here. We're going to get out of here a little bit early tonight, it looks like. But it's always time for trivia, so let's play a little trivia. Let's get the music going on that. Mockingbird. There we go. So let's do a little trivia. We might do 10 questions. We got time. If you don't have time, you can pause it and come back later. All right, guys, pull out your pens and paper and let's get started. This is an easy one for a little bit of fun. True or false? Andy usually wore a tie. True or false? Which one of the two? Don't just pick. Okay. Andy usually wore a tie. The answer is nope, false. That's false. Andy did not normally wear a tie. Barney did, but not Andy. All right. Question number 2. Who ate Mr. Cookie Bars? Who ate Mr. Cookie Bars? This is a pretty easy one. You should be able to get this one. This is a name, not true or false. It's who ate Mr. Cookie Bars? All right. Who ate Mr. Cookie Bars? The answer is Barney. Barney ate Mr. Cookie Bars. Now, Andy wanted to feed them to a dog, but it was Barney who had the Mr. Cookie Bars. There's folks in the chat room saying it was Barney and the scraggly little dog. So I'll give you partial credit. All right, number 3. Andy once tried to pass Ernest T. Bass off as whom? Andy once tried to pass Ernest T. off as whom? Who did he say he was? Andy tried to pass Ernest T. Bass off as whom? This is question 3. How you doing? 1, 2, 3. I'm marking it down so I remember. The answer is he tried to pass Ernest T. Bass off as his cousin, Oliver Gossage. How do you do, Mrs. Wiley? Could I have this dance? Thank you for the dance. Open and close, no credit. Okay. That's a different episode, but I like it. All right, let's see. Multiple choice. Let's go with multiple choice. Who received a plaque as Mayberry's most distinguished citizen? Was it A, Otis, B, Andy, C, Barney, or D, Gomer? Who received a plaque as Mayberry's most distinguished citizen? A, Otis, B, Andy, C, Barney, or D, Gomer? All right. The answer is who received a plaque as Mayberry's most distinguished citizen. The answer was A. Otis. It was Otis. It was Otis that got it. All right, so that's 4. Let's go here. All right, number 5. 4, 5. I have to do math. I didn't plan to do math tonight. All right. Here's another true or false. Barney usually wore a hat. True or false? And if you get this wrong, you need to go back to episode 1 of 2 Chairs No Waiting and start listening again, please. Barney usually wore a hat. True or false? Yep. You go back and start over. Go back to episode 1 of the Andy Griffith Show and start over. All right. The answer is true. Yeah, of course Barney wore a hat. He always wore his hat. You know, I mean, he almost always had his hat on, not always. All right, number 6. Who said, and of course I'm having to be careful not to read it like the character. Who said she's an 8-cylinder? She'll take 8. Who said she's an 8-cylinder? She'll take 8. I'm trying careful not to read this. I like the voice. All right, come on, you can get it. This is a person. Who said she's an 8-cylinder? She'll take 8. Come on. The answer is Gomer. She's an 8-cylinder. She'll take 8. Do it, boy. Just do it. All right. So how'd you doing there? All right. So that was 6. Number 7. Who is the regular cleaning lady at the bank? This one's a little harder. Oh, it's a little hard here. Who is the regular cleaning lady at the bank? Come on, you can get it. Who's the regular cleaning lady at the bank? Now, I'm fixing to give you the answer. So, you, as always, you can pause and come back when you think you got the answer. Who was the regular cleaning lady at the bank? The answer is it was Mrs. Magruder. Now, Barney, remember, was Mrs. Magruder's cousin when he was cleaning the bank. Yeah, so Mrs. Magruder is the cleaning lady. Yeah, folks in the chat room are getting it. Good job, folks in the chat room. All right, number 8. This is a multiple choice. What did the new kid use to break a street lamp? What did the new kid use to break a street lamp? Was it A, a rock, B, a peach, C, a tomato, or D, an apple? What did the new kid use to break a street lamp? A rock, a peach, a tomato, or an apple? That's A, B, C, D. All right. What did the new kid use to break that lamp? The answer is an apple. That's right, an apple. That was it. So that was number 8. Number 8. Let's go to number 9. Number 9. We may go 12 because that'll be easy. These are the cards from the Andy Griffith Show trivia game. Also by Scott Hopkins. Where's his book? Oh, his book's in my bag. So the book, you can get the book of Mayberry Trivia at Weaver's. All right. Number 9. It's true or false? No, we can't do that one. This is too easy, but I'll go ahead and do it. And if you miss it, you weren't listening. Barney usually wore a tie. True or false? You better not miss it because you weren't even paying attention earlier. True or false? Barney usually wore a tie. The answer is true. Yes, he did. And I said it earlier because I had not read this question. True is the answer. Good job to anybody who got that right. At the minimum, you were listening to me earlier. Thank you. All right, number 10. Who said, Winkin' will tell Blinkin', Blinkin' will tell Nod, Nod will tell Barney, and Barney will tell you? Who said it? Who said Winkin' will tell Blinkin', Blinkin' will tell Nod, Nod will tell Barney, and Barney will tell you? Oh, how will I know, Paul? All right, so the answer is Andy. Andy did it. Andy said, well, Winkin' will tell Blinkin', Blinkin' will tell Nod, and Nod will tell Barney, and Barney will tell you. Oh, that's so good. All right, number 11. We got 2 bonus questions. Number 11. What was the title of Barney's column in the school newspaper? What was the title of Barney's column in the school newspaper? Okay, think about it for a second. Again, if you don't know it, you can pause. What was the title of Barney's column in the school newspaper? The answer is Pickups and Splashes from Floor and Pool. From Floor and Pool. Oh, yeah, folks in the chat room, they're getting pieces of it. Pickup and Splashes from Floor and Pool. That is the entitled name. So there you go. All right, final question here. Who was Daphne's boyfriend? What was his name? Was it A, Al, B, Bill, C, Carl, or D, Dave? Okay. Who was Daphne's boyfriend? Was it Al, Bill, Carl, or Dave? A, B, C, or D? All right. Chat room is popping in with that one. All right. Here comes the answer. Who was Daphne's boyfriend? Hello, doll. Who was her boyfriend? It was A, Al. Al, that's who it was. All right. Al was her name. The chat room lit up with the answers for that one. Good job, chat room. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you had some fun with the trivia. I hope you enjoyed just thinking back about Don Knotts and hear a little bit of the memories of Ron Howard and Don Knotts. So that's why I called it Ron and Don. You get it? That's the name of the podcast tonight. Ron and Don. I love it. Folks, I want to thank you for being here. It's always so much fun to spend time with you here in Mayberry. I hope you had a good time. Hope you had some fun with the trivia and hearing from Randy and just hearing from Ron about Don as well. So, folks, I'd love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415. I'd love to hear from you. If you were at the Mayberry meetup this past weekend, give me a call at 888-684-8415. Tell us about your experiences. How did it go? Did you enjoy it? And send me pictures. I can show pictures during the podcast, during the video version, and I'll post them on our Facebook page in the album. Folks, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time right here on Two Chairs.